Yo, what up, nerds? New weekend. That means a new anime streaming showcase. So welcome. This week we're going to look at a little bit of a, I could say it's, I guess, a modern classic at this point. It's a little over 15 years old. It has its fans, and there's 2 sequels coming out this year. So we're gonna look at Furikuri. We're gonna take a look down one of the strangest, shortest, but probably strongest OVAs in probably the last 20 years, so let's just hop right into it. When I often rate or read or hear various things deemed as style over substance, there are 2 things that immediately come to mind. A, that is entirely an okay review. And B, good. That means that I can enjoy this in a mindless setting as I'm usually doing something else that I might have been putting off for a while. That's not to say that I still don't pay attention, as I will give it all it needs to understand and take it all in, but if the plot's marginally thin, then I'll focus on other elements. Let's take example a movie like 300, or a show like Naruto that has hundreds of filler episodes, yet I'm forced to watch all 90 of them to finally get to the new show post the Sasuke and Naruto fight, but I usually turn my brain off because the threat of any lasting plot is moot, because it's non-canon and thus it's ultimately pointless to watch. I'm not comparing the movie 300 to a filler episode of anime, but in terms of its story, it's razor thin. A group of dudes attempts to barricade another group of dudes from invading, and there are endless slow motion and stylistic direction to keep the popcorn gobblers happy for roughly 90 minutes. It's nice to watch, but should I ever wish to return, it won't be for its story, only for the visuals. And given that anime is obviously a heavily visual medium and that some animation directors can take their art to levels unseen and unexpected, you can then be expected to hear the occasional style no substance criticism or flair discussed about an episode or a show. Furikuri is a show that when it debuted in the US on Adult Swim many years ago, it was heralded as the most visually appealing and bonkers show, but with a low what the fuck story. And while I do think it's a fair critique on the first viewing, especially considering when it first aired, not many US viewers had seen anything like it. It was an over-the-top and out-of-this-world and nearly nonsensical but absolutely gorgeous show to watch. Created by pre-Studio Trigger directors and animators, Furikuri was a joint venture between Studio Gainax and Production IG, focused on 6th grader Naota, who's just trying to exist in his boring town of Mabase. His boring life quickly becomes, well, a cartoon when he's run down by an odd pink-haired woman on a Vespa scooter and is soon sprouting various items from his head. This is where the plot, which has already started, kicks into the lol what the fuck category, and viewers who are in for a mindless adventure can begin. But if you're on your 2nd, 3rd, or 4th pass with Furikuri, you'll probably start to pick up on the references, self-aware or broad as they may be, the themes and the allegories at work within Furikuri's world. Now some of these are completely left open to interpretation, others are a tad more straightforward or laden with subtext, and others are simply lost in translation, something that often occurs in a show like this. The Japanese creators and its language have specific or unique ways designed to exemplify their meanings, and it simply won't make it through the language barrier. It's the most prominent, arguably the most accepted message is that Furikuri is all about Naoto's journey through puberty. Other stories revolve around past loves and moving on or never letting go. There are a ton of fan interpretations of those theories out there, and I do urge you to explore post-first viewing, but not pre. Because, honestly, it's a fun experience. If you take these theories into your next viewings after your first, they tend to gain a bit of gravity. Perhaps not all of them, but it's still a new way of watching the show aside from the gorgeous visuals. I'm ordinarily not a fan of fan theories or headcanons or anything like that, but occasionally I'll just dive into these worlds to get more from what I've watched and sort of help extrapolate all of it, or maybe catch something that I might have missed. Despite being 15 plus years old at this point, Furikuri is one of the most gripping and visually arresting shows to be found. And if you're a fan of Studio Trigger shows like Kill la Kill or Gurren Lagann, you kind of owe it to yourself to check out their previous works. Each episode drips with a unique style that benefited from a direction choice or an entirely unique look. Episode 5 will likely look the most familiar to Studio Trigger fans though, as the animation director is Hiroyuki Imaishi, who's handled numerous productions since then. The storytelling and the design, they feel like a modern era anime. And so I think Hiroyuki was far ahead of his time when he was creating episode 5 of Furikuri. It also feels like it's the most complete, straightforward of the entire 6-episode series. Despite the zany actions and goings on, it's an incredibly coherent episode. We get info dumps that aren't gross expository scenes. We get clear-cut explanations of character and motives, again without poorly disguised means. It's finally started building something towards its climax in the final episode without alienating the audience that's followed it thus far, and it will ensure it's leading the audience toward the intended finale. If you're not in for a low what the fuck show, the previous 4 episodes though might try your patience. Especially if you're not in the mood for it and it's nonsense and you want a plausible, easy to follow story. But Furikuri isn't here for that. It's here to break conventions, and it's here to have fun while telling its story. It's a controlled chaos series, constantly shifting tones and styles. Furikuri will turn from a manga into a South Park parody, and then a space epic, and then a spaghetti western, all within 21 minutes of an episode. It's unapologetically a mess, but in a great way. It's allowing an outlet for Gainax creators and directors to tell a piece of themselves in a 20-plus minute episode. And if you're a fan of Easter eggs and trivia, Furikuri has plenty of it to be found and discovered both in the English and the Japanese dub. Speaking of which, you might want to take the series first in through the English audio track versus the Japanese, as you'll want to hear and watch more than you may want to read and watch to take in what Furikuri aims to show you. Then perhaps just sort of do the inverse the next time, but you really can't go wrong regardless of your choice, as both tracks are quality. Oh, and the soundtrack is provided by the band The Pillows, and if you do not find a single song to take away from this show to hum or add to your music playlist or enjoy, you may as well just quit everything. It is all terrifically fitting. With 2 sequel series expected to start in 2018, Studio Gainax and Adult Swim haven't forgotten the fans that have gotten them to this point. And I am hopeful that while it may never reach the same heights, I'll settle in for a raucous ride that will entertain and be rife with numerous references that I hope to get now a tad more than I did previously, since I'm a little bit more anime conscious and familiar with the medium. But given that United States and Japanese audiences have become more self-aware since the early aughts, I'm curious if Gainax and its crew can create an even zanier creation than Furikuri, especially when so many shows after it have followed its template and styles, and even the original creators have gone on to other projects. I won't hedge my hopes or anything, but I don't believe Furikuri 2 and 3 will be another style over substance, but more style with substance. And your 20-year-old sequel series will have a bevy of expectations, and those who are familiar with Furikuri will likely even be more strict when comparing it to them later this year. You can find Furikuri pretty much anywhere. Funimation has the subbed and dubbed, Hulu has the sub, Crunchyroll has the sub, pretty much your standard anime areas you can find them wherever you like. But definitely Furikuri, go out, enjoy the absolute zaniness that it has to offer. It's a pretty great ride. There we have it, brand new anime streaming showcase. Thank you as always for joining me. This was a look at Furikuri, a show that really, when it was initially airing on Adult Swim many years ago, it was like, wow, this show's fucking bonkers and I don't understand any of it. And this is what, when you hear that, oh, Japanese are so weird, this is sort of just one of those shows that encompasses that idea sort of from like an ignorant person. But if you actually do sit down and watch Furikuri, you pay attention, there is really more to the style than just amazingly animated and produced content. If you give it a chance, it's only 6 episodes. It's essentially 2 hours. It's a very easily digestible series, and I am very much looking forward to the sequel series. I'm trying not to get too hyped because it's very rare that a series can get a sequel series so late in the game and it still holds up or matches. But I'll be there day one. I'm in. Let's go, Furikuri. Let's do it. And in the meantime, there's horns honking. In the meantime, I am going to spend my weekend editing this shit, getting it up, and then jumping into some video games because I haven't really done that in a little while. And this weekend, it is the weekend of Dragon Ball Z Fighters. I don't give a fuck what Bandai Namco says. You put a Z on the end of your goddamn word, that's how people pronounce it. Fuck you. And Monster Hunter World, and I've actually hopped into Monster Hunter World, and I'm going to spend a lot of time with that because I've never really given that series that much time and attention. Only a few hours in. We'll see. Maybe next week I'll have more to talk about it. Right now it's a little bit. It's the opening of the book, so we got to flip a few more pages to get to and see how we like it. But so I'm going to do that. If you are interested in Monster Hunter World, Green Man Gaming, my sponsor, you can swing by their website, pick it up, PS4 code. Right now they have it on sale, 10% off for $54. It's the cheapest I have seen it yet outside of the Amazon pre-order thing, where if you're a Prime member, you can get it for like $48, but I think that ends once the game is actually out. So I don't know if you can take advantage of that. If you can, head over to Amazon, do it that way. But right now, Green Man Gaming is, I know, the only cheapest way to get it on PS4 for under an SRP. So do that. Stick around. We will be doing more ass for the rest of 2018. I love you, dummies, and I will see you next time. Later, nerds.